Hello, thanks for tuning in and welcome to the pool party. I hope you can swim because we're definitely diving into the deep end with a huge splash of truth, facts, evidence, information, and proof. Swim. Say what you mean. It's talk about talking. How we listen, how we hear, how we speak, how we hear what we're listening to when we speak, how a listener hears what we're saying, if what we're saying, what they're actually hearing and or understanding. Is it clear? Swim. Say what you mean. Well, that's just the beginning of understanding, because after we get that understanding, how do we accept it? How we respond if it's not what we expect is paramount. Are you okay with the truth? Are you man, woman, human, or spiritual enough to accept the truth? Let's find out.
All right, let's do that.
Welcome to The Swimming Pool with your host, Travis Bridges.
Bam! Good evening, everybody, and welcome to The Swimming Pool with your host, Travis Bridges. I really like the way that announcer says that. Makes me seem very important. Well, here's hoping you're having a fantabulous Wednesday evening. Christine is in the hizzy. Tony Morrow is also in the hizzy. You know, I really like, let me pull this curtain down right here. Okay, here I am. Y'all, can you see me? Let's see. Oh, man. Let me tell you, I got some funky stuff going on today. You can see I'm still wearing my Sunday go to meeting shirt, because I had a very important appointment. Let me see before I get my message. Oh, here I am. Let's see now. Let's see how this works. It's really weird. Some weird stuff happened, but I'm good now. I have a guest coming up that's canned, and it's going to be really cool. So thank you in advance for sticking with me. Restitution, a letter to the judicial system. I was out running. Well, no, I wasn't running. I was actually walking. I changed my groove. I'm doing some more walking now, and I'm not getting old. So don't say I'm getting old. It's just I took a few days off, and I'm changing up my groove. And I was doing a 5-mile run, and then I stopped that to a 2.5-mile run, and then I stopped for like maybe a week, 4 or 5 days, not even a whole week. So now I'm going back to my 5-mile run. But I want to walk it for a few days. So today was my third day. Monday, Tuesday, it is Wednesday. So yeah, that's what's up. Anyway, I had an important meeting earlier. Gosh, man, why is my head cut off? Anyway, I'll back up a little bit. How about this? Cool? Let me lean back over this way. So, okay. Wow, I got a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, did I speak to everybody? And, let me tell you what happened a few minutes ago. I rushed in thinking that I was late, and I was late, and I got everything set up and I was ready to go, and I hit the button, the intro played and everything, and I was sitting here waiting because they twisted my arm and they made me take some food from the place that I was visiting earlier. And I told them no, I wasn't supposed to eat this late, but they threatened me and made me take some food. Anyway, well, what had happened was, let me duck down, let me lean in like this here, let me get on like the coach. Yeah, what was I gonna say? Am I losing my train of thought? This happens when I'm sleepy. But yeah, they made me take some food. So what I was doing is I saw the food and it was smelling good coming out of the bag, and I rushed in and I did everything I need to do to get set up. And once the intro started and then the live stream started, I was like, okay, now I can at least see what this food smells like. I wasn't gonna eat it. I was just gonna smell it. So I did everything, and I sat here and finished the whole takeout to only find out that I was not live yet. And then I was looking out, I kept going to my other device to see if it, what was happening, and nothing was happening. It's like, why is it not working? this platform is just really like getting worse. So I was blaming it on the platform. But as one of my instructors used to say, it's operator error. It's never the thing. And I had this engineer when I was in radio. Something would happen, and his way of checking everything, what would he call it? He would call it, well, he would do tech support, and he would say, okay. He would say, is it plugged in? Is it turned on? And by the time he goes through all of the things, someone will actually have a machine not turned on or plugged in, or even worse, the machine wouldn't even be there. But anyway, back to my point. I'm not going to keep you long. I do have a canned guest that's coming up real soon, and I'm gonna let you go. I'm never late. This is the first time I've ever been this late. If I'm, business travel and I'm on a plane and I can't get in, I'll be late for that, and then I'll have a justification. But tonight was different. I really needed to be there. But anyway, hold the spot you got. I'll be right back. Is anybody else joining me? I see more people with me tonight. I believe my guest from today is going to be there. If you are, hey, thank you so much for your time. Anyway, I'll be right back. Don't move.
Atlanta, it's jazz time. The Family Health Centers of Georgia and Toyota present Sounds of Good Medicine. Don't miss jazz greats Peter White and Vincent Ngala. The smooth voice of Phil Perry.
Baby, will you call me the moment?
Along with saxophonist Paul Taylor. And renowned jazz vocalist Nicole Henry.
And I'm feeling good.
Sounds of Good Medicine Benefit Concert. Hosted by Atlanta's #1 man on stage, MC Lightfoot. Be there Saturday, September 9th, 7 p.m. at the Mabel House Amphitheater in Mableton, Georgia. Bring your own food and drinks, and parking is absolutely free. An awesome evening of great jazz starting at just $59. Saturday, September 9th. Tickets available at Ticketmaster. Presented by the Family Health Centers of Georgia and Toyota.
Well, there you are.
I didn't recognize the number, so I didn't answer it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's wise of you.
Yeah, I'll add it to your contact info for next time.
Are you what is the word? Are you shell shocked from telemarketers?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you don't recognize the number, you're not going to answer it. Period.
That's right.
Okay. I wished I could be that, because I rely on my phone so much for business, and I never know if someone's going to call for business or not. So I almost have to answer, but I get a lot of telemarketers that I really wish that I had been able to not answer, but that's another story within itself. How's your day going?
Yeah, and people can always leave a message, and then I can call them back. Real people that want to talk with me.
Exactly. I get it.
So my day is it's going well. I started out with a very anxious and scared feeling this morning because of a reoccurring dream, and then I talked to a friend, and she lifted my spirits, and I did my yoga, and I worked through anxiety and fear, and received confidence and courage from Brian, and I'm feeling good. I'm in a good space right now.
Awesome. Our conversation. I listen. Today is a day that's very different for me. Today is the day I'm having something I haven't had in a very long time. As a somewhat seasoned musician, normally people will look at my YouTube channel or look at my website, and they will say, oh yeah, you're the guy we want, or I have so many repeat clients that they don't have to have any kind of interviews. But I have what is called an audition today, and I'm going to go and play my sax for a group of folks that wants to see if they want to add me to their network. So I'm a little nervous, but not too nervous, and other than that, I did my workout this morning. I did everything else I needed to do regarding my book, and I'm just ready to go. I do have the live stream. I'm always live, but I have canned guests like this one, like your and my conversation is going to be what I called canned. But yeah, I'm ready to get into that, and I'm looking at my clock right now. I promise you, I'm going to let you go within 10 seconds of the time I promised. Of course, that's from when we actually start. So I'll leave it there.
That sounds great.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my live stream before we get going. It's simply entitled SWIM, SWIM. That is the acronym for Say What You Mean. And the reason I titled that is because oftentimes in communication and conversation, someone will say something and they will mean something different, or someone will hear something and they will perceive it as something different. And I believe in communication. I believe if there's a misunderstanding of any kind, if you ever walk away from a conversation or you hang up the phone with someone and your spirit is vexed in some kind of way, that means you need to call back or turn around or ask more questions, because I don't believe we're given the spirit of fear or confusion. It's something that we have created, because the universe itself, the world, is orderly. Spring, summer, winter, and fall comes without any help. The trees bloom. If you put a seed in the ground, it's going to go. The ocean stops at in our country or city. Yeah, everything. Say it again.
It's real estate, construction, coastal line, the high tide point.
Right. Everything works, the way it's supposed to. Anytime there's confusion, you can always find a human being in the mix some kind of way. And I'm not knocking us, but I'm just trying to bring awareness to better communication. I really believe there is an answer to every question and there's a solution to every problem. And before I move forward, do you believe that? Do you believe there is an answer to every question and a solution to every problem? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. The way, and again, I'm giving you the basics of what this live stream is about, and there will be times I'll ask for some yes or no questions. I will never stop you from expressing or explaining yourself, but there are times for clarity I may say, okay, yes or no to this. If you can't answer yes or no, by all means, don't feel forced. But, for clarity, I like to ask yes or no. Do you have any questions now before I go on? Because I have some questions before I get into the topic.
No, you go right ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. You've heard of situations, even court cases. And by the way, I never mention names. I don't talk about names or locations. Every now and then, if one slips, I'll either try to edit it or I'll pretend I didn't say it or the person didn't say it, because I want to hear from the person, the message, as opposed to the messenger. So no one will know your name on this particular live stream unless they recognize your voice. And if we can avoid saying names, locations, brands of any kind, then so be it. If you need to, then by all means do it. I'm just telling you in advance. But I will mention that your background is legal, and we don't have to go into details of what you do. And I have not a legal background, but I have a degree that involves legal, my criminal justice degree, so to speak. But so we're going to talk about something that will be
just a quick note
Uh-huh.
that I am a transactional paralegal, so I don't know a whole lot about the litigation world. Very, very little, but
that's fine. Because we have some legal in our background. I don't know anything about it. I'm just talking about it myself. So I won't even talk about, I shouldn't have even mentioned my degree, but we'll just try to keep moving on. I do know that you know what the legal system is about, and that's close enough.
right.
So we've heard of situations where cases in particular, and even laws, and even some things in Constitution have been turned over or overturned. You've heard of that before, right?
Yeah.
Cases where people have been accused of something and even found guilty, and then discovered later that they were not guilty at all. We've heard of those cases, right?
Yes.
When those cases are brought forward and people are exonerated, there's something that's in place called restitution. Can you give me your understanding of restitution by way of definition before I go on?
Restitution is a compensation to an individual from a governmental entity for harm and damage to that person.
Is it specifically from a governmental entity?
Yes.
It is?
The term restitution is, yes. Now, if it was a civil matter, then there's punitive damages and...
what would that be called?
Which one?
Well,
From a corporation?
From a person or a corporation. If someone wrongs someone and then they get, damages for it, what is that payment called?
Well, it's called, it's damages, and there's different types of damages. There's, I don't know what the term is though, but there's, the make whole, like say, someone swindled you out of $50,000 and you got a judgment to get that $50,000 back. So the damage was monetary. If someone slandered you and from that slander you lost your means of making a living, well then you've got compensation damages, again money, but you'd also have punitive damages because it's hurt you in a different way. Its punitive damages are for someone who was hurt and it's in a way that they can't recover.
Right.
Or it's different. It's for the intangible. So you've got tangible and intangible. And I would invite you to look up the legal terms for that, because we're getting into litigation, which is not my field.
Okay, I promised you this. There's no trick question than this, and I'm not going to use your I'm not going to use your background for or against anything we're discussing. So you don't have to be an expert or know anything. I just brought it to your attention because that's where we're going. Where this is involving the justice system and or some legal circumstances. So restitution specifically has to do with government.
Yes, I do think that is the case. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. No, it's not that important. You don't have to look it up. Let's just stay in stay where we're going. So when those cases are overturned, they're overturned because information and or evidence has been presented that says that, okay, this person is not guilty of what they were accused of. And although they may have served time, then, the reward for that, is there another name? Like, for instance, if someone serves time, do they get to, I guess, sue? I'm looking for a name and I'm drawing a blank too. Either way, they are awarded finances for damages. So we're okay. We're on the same page that there are cases and there are situations where if you create or cause damage to or for someone or about, you can be held liable. We're on the same page.
Right.
Okay.
When someone's not created.
Right.
And it is restitution is the word. I just looked it up.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's government or not.
Well, no, this is still government.
Okay, it's still.
And it's also in the Constitution. Something that's popping up here, like Florida's wrongful imprisonment compensation law. So it's a state law too. So you could use the word compensation. And restitution and retribution. I've never heard of that word.
Retribution.
Retribution. Sorry.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now we'll get into that. Okay, so what I want to do is keep.
It is governmental. It is not civil.
Okay. Well, I want to find if there is a word for civil, like if two neighbors,
Listen clear and definitive statement of what restitution is and what it should accomplish is needed. And for the policy reasons, the preferable course for this statement is to take the form of an analogy to civil damages. So it is, definitely governmental. So now if you're going to tell me about two neighbors, then it is civil damages. And there are different types of civil damages.
Okay.
Punitive, monetary.
Okay, that's good. I got it.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk about a couple of situations that I know of and that maybe you have heard of. And before I get to, because I'm kind of sort of going somewhere, and once I start these interviews like this, I never know exactly where I'm going. I just know where I want to go. I don't know which road is going to take me there. So, I don't have this written out or plan. I've got some notes to the side over here. But the first thing that pops into my head is my all-time favorite, and that is the Central Park 5. Are you familiar with that case?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That case, especially when I saw that documentary, I looked at that thing and it just touched me in a certain way, because I have known of many people who have been accused of things and have found a way, to not be represented well, either because of their status, because of their finances, because of even the color of their skin. And, they get thrown into a system because of a lack of representation from a legal perspective. And that case stands out. And most recently, the accuser of the late Malcolm X, there were two guys who were accused of his murder, and they went to prison, and they recently, in the past couple of years, were exonerated and proven not guilty because the guilty party actually said, okay, I did it. Are you familiar with that finding?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, well, it's new to me. I'm infatuated by the Malcolm X story, so I don't know a lot about it. It's just, what he represented, did something to my brain for a bunch of different reasons. So when I saw this most recently, I thought, okay, well, whoever those people were who served that time, they were compensated for the wrong imprisonment, but it still happened. It was cover up. And I guess in the other case I want to talk about is the Brian Banks. You remember the football player who was accused of rape and served time and then was also exonerated. Are you familiar with Brian Banks, the Brian Banks story?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, that's another story where a young, promising athlete was on his way to college and definitely going into the NFL, and he was not able to go because he was accused of rape. And because the prosecutors did not do a good job, he went and served time. I think 9 or 13 years. I can't remember right now. But it was a huge story some years ago. And he was eventually exonerated because of the evidence that was presented was not thoroughly investigated. And, he served time and he lost a lot of time from his life. And the person who accused him of the rape, nothing actually happened to her, the girl. So we're having 3 major cases that are public information and that were major headline news: the Central Park 5, the Brian Banks story, and of course the accusers of Malcolm X. These are all people that were accused of something and then it was overturned. And although we're not familiar with 2 of those 3, you are familiar with many other cases where people were exonerated as a result of false accusations.
Right, and not names that I can remember, but I know that there have been hundreds, and I know that there's a group in Chicago a law firm that is their sole purpose. And I believe Dershowitz led a group of young lawyers who work to exonerate people. And I'm just looking at Brian Banks now on Wikipedia, and so it's 2002 when this happened. And I remember that story. I missed the good news that he got exonerated.
Okay. No. Well, and that's the point I want to make. Many of these people get into the system some kind of way, and they get jammed up, and then they get forgotten about, or you never hear about it again. And even when they're exonerated, it's not like made public. Not like a big hoopla, unless a movie film production company picks it up, like Brian Banks and like the Central Park Five, and definitely like someone's. I would bet my last piece of chocolate pie that someone's going to do a story on the exoneration of the accusers of Malcolm X. So now I want to try to. Pardon?
I do love Malcolm X, of course, and the story of him being murdered, and Brian would say, but I don't have any. I don't have any details, but he always thought it was a cover-up too, just like when the Black Panthers were killed in Chicago. He knew that was all a lie. There
are countless stories. I only wanted to put those three out there to get into to my next point. So that we will be here for forever, raising the dead on those cases and causes. But what I wanted to talk about was going through that. And I want to give one more example for the sake of driving this home. I was about to say nailing this home, no pun intended. Even the story of Jesus Christ. He was accused of so many things, allegedly, and I happen to believe, the majority of it, most of it, probably all of it, that, he was even crucified and was exonerated according to the story, and now is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We know the story. But so many of these situations happen to so many of people, and it happens through the system. So I thought this morning while I was on my workout trail that I am going to definitely write another book, and it's going to be entitled A Letter to the Justice System. And the letter to the justice system is not the judicial system as we know it, like the courts, the judges, and all the legislators there. It's to the public, because we are the people, so to speak, no pun intended again. We elect these officials. We put these people in office. We hear about these trials. We have the opportunity to go into courtrooms freely and hear them and have our say when these things happen. And I've heard many attorneys say, well, our court system is broken. It's not perfect, but we've got to have something in place. And I agree with that. But it's got to be a whole lot better because of the type and the amount of people that are falsely and wrongly accused, and due to corruption and just flat out lies. Lies and corruption, is the primary cause of why these people, go through this. And I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to get your feedback on it, because this is what I'm now getting to the meat of what I wanted to say. Dr. Martin Luther King said, any person who sits by and watch injustice is also guilty of injustice himself, something to that effect. And I think we as a society, we're so busy doing our own thing that when we hear about these cases, all we do is say, yeah, well, okay, it's not my business, or it's not my problem, until it hits home, until it's your son or your daughter or your brother or your sister or yourself. You don't really think about sentencing a person or giving a person a bad rap when you first hear a rumor about a person. Supposedly we're innocent until proven guilty, but by the time a person's name reached the news and they're able to be accused of something, a lot of damage has already been done, not to mention having to go to prison and doing time. And then God rest the souls of those people who were actually executed, due to corruption and what is the word I'm looking for lies, and even, what is the word? Incompetence, judicial systems, for incompetence. So,
and bias.
Say it again.
And bias.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, it can go deep. And for the sake of time, I'm going to try to round out. I just wanted to give my spiel, to my audience, and then I want your feedback, of course, on the small things that happen, not the big stories that make it to the headlines. There are situations that are that are laws that are just flat out unfair. We have what I like to refer to as a point of reference. There are certain things that are considered reasonable expectations that have been established by society as what I'm going to say most people would call right and wrong. We're born with that gift. You don't have to be of a certain religion to know right is right and wrong is wrong. There's certain things that you just know. And one of my favorite quotes goes like this. And I heard it done like this here, and a person we know very well. It helped change my perspective of this. And the quote goes like this, or the scripture goes like this: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The day that I heard do not do unto others as you would have them not do unto you totally changed my life. Because the example that was given was like, okay, no, I wouldn't want someone to do to me like they would want me to do, because they may want something done to them that I don't like. And so, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. We have to have another conversation so we can get into the details, but you know exactly who and what I'm talking about. And not
the message there is nonviolence and compassion. And but yes, go on.
Yeah, not doing, and I'm not trying to change scripture or change the Bible. And I know it says do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, that kind of is self-explanatory, and we know that it actually means also don't do unto others, but it doesn't say that I recall. But I just like to add that don't do unto others.
Yeah.
And if you would not want someone to accuse you of something, by all means, when someone has been found guilty with proof and evidence, and information, then by all means, we have to all go through the same channels of justice. And I get that. But people who get bad raps, there really should be a higher standard for those who are prosecuting people. And when those things are overturned or when people are exonerated, the people responsible should not just be able to say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, And that's all I wanted to say. I don't even know if I made my point, but I just wanted to bring awareness, to something that's big. And I'm going to give you all the rest of the time to talk and say all you want, because I know I've been just eating up the time. So now you can just go ahead and respond. Oh, last thing. No, I have one more, of course. I always have one more. What is it that, and I'm embarrassed, being a man that looks like me. I can't remember what this is called. I thought it was restitution, or reciprocity. Not reciprocity. What is it that my community, black community, says we're owed by the government, for slavery? What is that called? Come on, help me out, please. Restitution. It is restitution. Okay, so I was on point and didn't even know it. Okay, so restitution. When I hear people say, well, maybe restitution should not be. Well, slavery has been found out to be wrong, and it is the same way of overturning a law, because it was law and it was a system that where people could own slaves and work slaves for no work. So when I hear people say that no, we're not going to give people restitution, we're not going to give anyone anything because it's in the past and nobody we know owns slaves, the whole works. But if you look at it from the perspective of all of these cases that I just meant, and now slavery got to the place to where it was overturned and it's now against the law. But look at all of the money and all the wealth that was created. Well, let's just say not all of it, because there are people who, will dispute that. It was not that much. Okay, so whatever it was, it's something that happened to a group of people and you can't give it back to them. So what do? Do you just let it slide under the rug? And that's not a question. You don't have to answer that. You can respond however you want. I'm really going to give you the last words of our 7 minutes that we have to go.
That's all we have? Okay.
Well, we can take a little more, but that's, if we're going to keep on with the time, we have about 7. But go ahead. Feel free to express yourself.
So just an expression on the topic, no specific questions to me about it, is where I should be going, correct?
Yeah, just whatever comes to mind right now with everything I've said. I mean, are you clear with what's on my mind and what my thoughts are?
I am.
Okay, so yeah, respond and however you want.
Okay, so trying to organize my thoughts here.
It's take your
because
time.
I have a lot of them on the topic of restitution, and in particular to the African American community in America. Just a few days ago, there was a county court case. This is a lower level court, a state court in Oklahoma. And there were two individuals who were harmed and damaged by the Tulsa massacre. These two individuals are still alive. They're in their hundreds. So they were able to file a case for restitution for damages from the massacre. And the court ruled that they were not entitled to restitution, where there is clear evidence that they have been damaged, that their families have been damaged psychologically and monetarily. And what I know will happen is that the group that is defending or is representing these two individuals will take this up to the next level of the court. They'll appeal it, and the hope is, of course, that they prevail one day and are awarded restitution. It may and is likely to go to their estates, but regardless, there are examples of cases that relate back to 100 years ago. And I recently was in a discussion with a neighbor, and I was discussing this case with her. And her reaction was, and the topic of restitution universally in our country for slavery. And her response was, well, I didn't do that. That was in the past. And also, she said, I work hard, so why don't I deserve money? This woman is Irish and Puerto Rican. So she's not a WASP, but still she has this immediate reaction that because she works for a living, that no one alive deserves anything for past damages. And I tried to explain to her my values, that, and my understanding, my knowledge that it is the institutions that have unjustly accused black men of crimes without proper representation and with lies and deceit. And I was not able to get her to accept this concept that we have damaged and held back part of our heart of America. We, as a country, can never meet our full potential if we continue to apply injustice or injustice to a population within our greater population. I know that many, many, many young men have been arrested for crimes they haven't committed. We have all heard stories of the police putting drugs in people's cars and setting them up. And what I think is a horror and part of what's behind this now is for-profit prisons. If you have a system where imprisoning someone leads to profit for a corporation and shareholders, their only goal is to increase the number of their population. And I don't think any of us should be so naive to think that people who run the prisons don't have dinners with sheriffs and police officers and donate to police benevolent society. There are many cases where a police officer who has been dismissed from their job because of discrimination or lying. Someone I knew had a word for it, but it's test the lie. That was the word, test the lie, not testify, test the lie. And people have wrongly gone to prison. So these officers, what they do is they just move to another jurisdiction. No different than a priest who has been accused of sexual abuse of a child and the Catholic Church moving them to a different state to work in a different church. It's a epidemic cover-up. Instead of removing these people, they move them. So we need to get rid of we need to add the RE to it. It needs to be removed, not moved. But there's also no national database to trace this. And that data is not delivered to us, to the public. Institutions hide and lie about their deceit. And justice is not something that you find in the courts. The courts are not about justice. The courts are about trying to solve a problem. The justice is something that we all need to internalize and give to other individuals in our world. There's another point that I want to make, which is that and this is very personal, and I feel a lot of shame about this, but I'm going to tell you a story from when I was 9 years old. And my parents had gotten divorced, and my mother and me and my two sisters went to go live with my grandmother. I went from being a child whose mother was home all day to a latchkey kid, which meant I came home from school, I let myself in the house, and I was alone until my mother and grandmother came home from work. And one day, a man drove into the driveway, and he had a very classy car at the time, one of those female eagle emblems on the top of his car, and he was a black man. And he got out of his car, and he came to the door, and I was watching him through the window, and I stood at the door, terrified, and it was just one of those push locks, and I held the lock in. And he looked in the window, and I think he saw the TV on, and he got back in his car, and he left. I ran to a neighbor's house. She called my mother and let me know what was going on. They called the police, and the police came and asked me what happened. And then several weeks later, they put a photo album in front of me and asked for 6 photos and asked me to identify the man. I remember that I picked out the scariest looking man, which I know was also institutionally imposed in my mind because there was, when I'm 9, this is like the 1978, and we're in Pompano Beach, Florida, and there was not much advancement still. So I know that seeing a black man and thinking he was scary was taught to me. It is not something that was ever internal in me. And I looked at those pictures and I picked a man. And then weeks later, they took me to the Broward County Courthouse and I spoke to a prosecutor and said, yes, I think that's that man. I'm not, I hope I said I can't be positive, because I think I remember being a little unsure at that time. And then I never found out what happened after that. I don't know if I wrongly accused someone and he went to jail. I just don't know. But what I do know now is that eyewitnesses are not reliable. What I know about memory and the way that we see things is that our brain likes to save energy and wants to take shortcuts. And so we'll see certain points in something we're looking at, but we don't see all of it. And we fill the rest of it in. So we create part of the image with our brain to save energy. And memory, every time you have a memory about something, it's always going to be slightly different, because the parts of that memory are spread out in different parts of our brain. So if I'm feeling bad one day, I'm going to pull, the thing that hurts me or made me sad or made me angry. But if I'm feeling good and I think of a memory, it's going to be sunshine and music, nice music playing, and I feel calm. And so what I know is that has been used for hundreds of years in our country to discriminate against African Americans and brown people and anyone who is not a white male. I'm sure it's happened to women of all colors. And do I have, now I'm thinking like are there solutions to this? Well, let me back up a second. Another part of what's happening in our society, and this is global, is that the news has changed. It's about clicks and advertisements, and technology has changed our ability to focus and concentrate, down to people have an attention span of 2 seconds when looking at a title for a news story. And that anger and fear is used when disseminating disinformation, and that scores highly on someone's emotional chart. So it draws people in. But I was recently listening to a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Her name is Maria Ressa, and she and a group of other journalists have discovered that the other feeling that races high emotionally for people is inspiration. So if we can counter this anger and fear that is being delivered to us through disinformation, we can do it with inspiration. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to inspire each other to be our best selves.
Okay, I want to jump in, and thanks for sharing that. That was quite a bit. I'm sure I will have to rewind a few times to get it all, but you said a few things that I was able to jot down. Can you elaborate? You said an eyewitness is not reliable. I don't want to differ on that, but there's definitely got to be some credibility in an eyewitness. And when you say an eyewitness is not reliable, I can only imagine people that are brainwashed, people that are put up to stuff in certain ways, people that are not, focused, or people that really don't remember. Different story. But, if I'm with you and we see the same thing, and we can say, to a reporter or an investigator, okay, this is what we actually saw. If there are no cameras there, an eyewitness is the next best thing to a camera. unless someone is known to be a liar or known to be, corrupt, then there's no reason to not respect someone who says, okay, well, I saw this accident, or I saw what happened, or I was there and I witnessed a certain thing or a certain, incident. So just could you elaborate, briefly on when you say an eyewitness is not reliable?
Yes, absolutely. And you're correct. I did use that too broadly, okay? Some eyewitnesses are not reliable. Let's take a hypothetical. If I was raped by someone, I would remember who raped me. I would be able to describe them. If I'm in a mall and a gunman is running through the mall and there's 50 people screaming and we're all running, I might think I saw that he had brown hair, but he really had light blonde hair, or that he was 6 foot, not 5 foot. And so those are examples where, eyewitness testimony can differ. And in a case like that, I think it would be incumbent on a prosecutor to be able to compare statements and find people that actually line up. Where if you had 5 people who said 6 foot, brown hair, black jacket, blue jeans, Nike sneakers, right? So yes, this is true. And then also, as you were indicating there, people have different memories. I know people who have a mind like a steel trap and don't forget anything. There's, military people and police officers they're trained to quickly take a lot of notes mentally. But I caution you on cameras. Cameras are not infallible. I can't remember the name of it now, but I watched a documentary a few months ago on Netflix, and it was about cases where people were unjustly accused of crimes because of cameras, but then it was proven that it was not them in the camera. The camera doesn't get every angle of a person. Light and shadow plays a difference.
Well, just for the record, I don't want to say a camera is not reliable. If a camera, if you got a different angle or a different shadow, different story, of course. But if I'm looking directly into a camera and I know you and I've seen you before and you say it wasn't you, and I see the same mole over your left eye that's been there for 50 years and you say, okay, it wasn't me, okay, it's going to be hard proving that. And I don't want to get too far into, the exceptions of cases as opposed to the rule. If a camera catches someone, chances are that can be used as evidence and will likely, get someone convicted. And of course, there are cases, like everything that, everything is not 100%. But you also said something else. You said you're not sure if you did the right thing, or you're not sure if you sent someone to jail. And I just kind of wanted to respond to that with saying what you mean and meaning what you say. If you pick the scariest person as opposed to the person that you actually saw, then maybe you did do something that might have caused someone else problem that you'll never know about. Because if you're 9 or 10 years old, they're not going to fill you in on what happened. But if you pick the scariest person, chances are you probably didn't pick the person that actually came to the door. So when you said that, I just kind of wanted to respond. But I want to try to wrap up for the sake of time, because we're...
I have thought about that, Travis. It's if I pick the scariest person, then there's probably some other crime that they were responsible for, and also I forgive myself. I was a child.
Sure. No, I'm not. Listen, I'm listening to what you said, and what you're still saying, and I understand. Children definitely. I don't want to say children can't be credible, but based on your circumstance and what you described, that you probably were not the best witness based on your programming. But what you said was you're not sure, something to the effect of not sure if you did the right thing or if you did the wrong thing. And I'm saying if you actually remember picking someone because of how they looked, or maybe what you thought as opposed to who you actually saw, then that was definitely something that I wanted to just focus on, but not for a long time. It just stood out when you were speaking. But, in the spirit of closing, first of all, I want to thank you for doing this on the spot. The last couple of days of us reconnecting, a conversation have been totally different. And I promise you, moving forward, our conversations will be totally different. This was for the sake of something that was on my mind. And you were, just the person that crossed my path that I got the opportunity to speak to. Because if you look back at some of my other, live streams, I'll speak to almost anyone. It's therapy for me to be able to speak, get someone's perspective and analyze exactly what they're saying as opposed to what they could be meaning or what they thought or what they believe. It does something for me. It's like an exercise to my brain. So yeah, some of my friends tease me about wanting to always get into something, and I can't deny it. Yes, I like intriguing conversations. I like paying attention to what someone is actually saying versus what they could be feeling, thinking, and or believing. So thank you for joining me. But this is a live stream, a show, talk about talking. And that's all we're doing is just talking. I wanted to kick that out there because I just wanted to bring awareness to how we all hear something on TV or on the news, and we're ready to, convict someone or make someone liable for something that's just been an accusation. By all means, when someone is found guilty, then, we have to take into consideration what may have happened by way of evidence and the way things are happening. But too many cases where people go through unnecessary stress, for the sake of incompetence, corruption, and just flat out lies. And that's all I wanted to bring attention to. And again, I thank you. If you want to have a final closing statement, by all means, go ahead, because we're pretty much done.
You're welcome, and I do. I want to say that it is, if we are going to rise to the quote of Martin Luther King Jr., that if we see injustice and we do nothing, that we are complicit. In this world where many of us feel powerless, it's incumbent on us when we hear a story to not just accept it, but to dig deeper, to seek the truth, not to fall into the trap of fear and anger, but to see if we can find and share inspiration. And for those who can, who have time and energy and funds, it is their role to actively pursue a just cause for all of us on the behalf of humanity, to continuously fight injustice and to never give up.
Awesome.
And that we... Okay, good.
Okay. No, I received that. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I'm going to go ahead and close out, but I'm going to call you back in a few minutes if that's okay. But I again appreciate your time. I hope we can do it again. And I hope you're okay with me just throwing the subject out there. If in the future you want to create a subject yourself, or if you want to know what I'm going to talk about, that's okay. But I really, again, that's why I want to hear from the mind, the soul, and the spirit of a person instead of what they have the opportunity to ponder and then create, responses. I really appreciate your genuineness and your truthfulness in everything you responded to, and I'm glad neither of us had the opportunity to actually plan and prepare. But this is something I thought about this morning. Even if I didn't have a guest, I was going to talk about it. So with that being said, thank you again. I'll call you back in a few minutes, but I'll let you go now.
Thanks, Travis.
All right, we'll chat in a few. All right.
Sure.
There you have it, my friends. Another edition of Say What You Mean, SWYM. That is the acronym for Say What You Mean. And as I close, I just want to again bring attention to the cases that were fresh on my mind this morning, and that is the Malcolm X accusers for his murder, the Central Park Five, Brian Banks, and many, many more. Many people are falsely accused of things as a result of just lies, corruption, and just plain old incompetence. And I think as a society, we must try to do a little bit more before, for one, we pass judgment and we allow someone to, as they said in the Green Mile, ride the lightning when we know better. And that's what I want to close on. Well, another one of my favorites. Tom Hanks played in the Green Mile, and he said, he felt guilty all that time for allowing John Coffey to ride the lightning when he, in his heart, he knew better. He knew that he was not guilty of those crimes, and he did nothing. He didn't step up for John Coffey, who was played by the late Michael Clark Duncan. And that's just one, along with the others and many more that we will probably never hear about again, of where evil, lies, corruption, and incompetence, creates problems for people. So with that being said, thank you so much again. Do me a small favor. As you make your way through the rest of the week, find someone you need to say I love you to. Don't just say it, but show it and mean it. By the way, before I go, I'm closing in on my book. It's getting a little, I'm getting a little nervous. But definitely before the year's out, and maybe as early as, I won't say, but definitely before the year's out, I will be titled author. And I want to say congratulations to another one of my friends. Google her, look her up. Anita Faye Wilson just released her book. I just caught up with her a few weeks ago. And Anita, congratulations on your book. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Within the next 48 hours, I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to get my copy of your book, because I know mine is coming out. And although I'm not looking for sales or popularity, I just want the self-fulfilling prophecy of being able to express myself and share my thoughts as to why I am the way I am and what caused it. Okay? Again, find someone you need to say I love you to. Don't just say it, mean it, and show it. Till the next time, have yourself a fantastic evening and good night.
SWYM. Swim. Say what you mean. As much as this information is designed to bring awareness to how we listen, hear, and process, it is also a form of therapy. The little person inside of all of us needs to be heard. As adults, even listening to ourselves is a form of healing, strengthening, and growth. It's okay to speak, talk, express yourself, and be heard, even if you're the only listener. If our testimony does anything at all for anyone else, that makes the continued effort worth the time. Get the words out. You'll feel better, and that's a promise. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Sometimes it seems like all the good times are gone, but you got to keep on searching. You got to keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. For example, take me standing right here today. I would not be here with you if I believed the things that the people say. You got to keep on searching. Keep on searching. Keep it on the cool side. Keep it on the cool side. Keep on